Last week, Brianna Carter stood frozen as her spa membership declined my bank account on pause. I used to believe we were a team, but her silence wasn't concern, it was entitlement bruised. I took night shifts, skipped meals, also she could rest. Now I cook, clean, raise kids alone. She lounges while I drown. Her advice was rest. So I did, and her comfort shattered. Back when we had barely enough for rent, Brianna cried about quitting school. I picked up weekend shifts telling her, "Finish your degree, I've got us." We shared peanut butter dinners and dreams of dual success. She promised, "I'll match your hustle one day." I carried a kaiken she gave me engraved for us. That gift used to give me hope. I never thought I'd one day question who us even meant. When she graduated, I bought champagne we couldn't afford. She beamed, saying, "We did this." I felt proud, exhausted, but certain we'd made it. She found a job fast. Spa perks and brunches followed. I thought we were finally balancing the load, but soon, her job was too stressful. She quit, said she'd find herself. I didn't complain. The kaiken stayed in my pocket. I still believed, just not sure in what anymore. When Owen had a fever and Brianna insisted it was my night, I stayed up, missing work the next day. She slept through his cries. Fiona at the office asked if I was okay. I just laughed it off. But later, Fiona left vitamins on my desk. I kept pushing, telling myself it was just a rough season. That kaiken, it was starting to feel heavy. Not hopeful. Was I the only one still trying? When our utility bill doubled, I asked Brianna to handle groceries. She scoffed, said she managed the home. I bit my tongue. Fiona warned, "You're burning out." I laughed again, this time hollow. That night, Brianna posted selfies from a spa, tagging it self-care queen. The kaiken in my jeans jabbed my leg as I scrubbed dishes. I stared at her post. Was this still partnership or performance? Who exactly was this us I kept defending? Brianna promised to attend Owen's school play. She forgot. I held his hand backstage as he blinked away tears. She texted spa ran late. That night, I found her scrolling in bed. No apology, just he'll forget. Fiona sent flowers with a note, "You're seen." I cried in the kitchen, silent. The kaiken slipped from my coat. I left it there. Was this the moment I stopped covering for her? Or just gave up on our anniversary? I booked dinner. She forgot, said she had a facial. I ate alone, steak going cold. Fiona called to check on me. I lied, said we'd rescheduled. At home, Brianna laughed at something on TV. No mention of the date. The kaiken sat beside me on the nightstand. I didn't touch it. That night, I slept facing the wall. Had I become background noise in my own marriage? Or just a convenience? At my breaking point, I filed for an unpaid leave 2 weeks. Didn't tell Brianna, just stopped. She noticed when spa payments failed. Her rage wasn't concern, it was panic over interrupted luxury. She stormed into the room. "What the hell, Nathaniel?" I looked up, eyes dry. "I'm resting just like you said." She went silent. The kaiken, I dropped it into the drawer and shut it hard. Her silence said everything. She tried sweet words next. "We're a team, remember?" I almost laughed. "You mean I play while you cheer from the spa?" Her face twisted. I left mid-conversation, keys in hand, ignoring her weight. Fiona met me at a diner, said nothing, just slid coffee over. I breathed. For the first time in years, my shoulders dropped. That kaiken is still in the drawer. I wasn't us anymore. I was just tired of pretending. Brianna called Fiona, furious, accusing her of ruining our family. Fiona let her rant, then hung up. She turned to me. Calm as she's scared, not sorry. That stuck. Scared of losing ease, not me. I drove home in silence. The house smelled like candles, but the warmth was gone. She waited on the couch, tears ready. I nodded, walked past her. The kaiken remained untouched. My silence was louder than any scream. That night, I packed a bag, not in anger, just resolve. Brianna stood in the doorway, voice trembling. "What about the kids?" I looked her straight on. "They'll know what partnership looks like someday." She didn't stop me. The kaiken clinked as I grabbed my jacket. I left it on the table, a relic. Owen's drawing fluttered to the floor. I picked it up, placed it gently back. That's who I'd fight for now. I stayed at a friend's first morning. No alarms, no demands. I walked to the park, watched kids laugh. It felt foreign freedom. Fiona texted, "You breathing?" I replied, trying. She didn't push, just sent a photo of my desk plant thriving. I smiled. The kaiken was gone, but my name was still mine. That day, I bought Owen new sketchpads. Small step, but it felt like moving forward for both of us. Brianna emailed a long apology, mostly about Bill's image inconvenience, barely a mention of me. I didn't reply. Instead, I called Owen's school, signed up to chaperone the next trip. Fiona high-fived me at lunch. I laughed, really laughed. That night, I slept soundly. No guilt, no second-guessing. The drawer at home still held the kaiken, but I no longer needed it. My compass wasn't a relic, it was remembering what love should feel like. Brianna filed for temporary spousal support, said I'd abandoned her. The notice arrived with my morning coffee. I stared, stunned. Abandoned? I'd carried her for years. Fiona raised an eyebrow. Typical. I folded the paper, sighing. Maybe this was her version of love transcational. The kaiken wasn't trash, it was a receipt she just never planned to pay in court. Brianna cried about loneliness, claimed emotional neglect. The judge asked for evidence. I handed over logs, calls unanswered, texts ignored. Fiona whispered, "Breathe." Brianna's lawyer fumbled. The judge frowned. I didn't gloat, just met her eyes. She looked away. That moment said everything. The woman I fought for didn't want a partner, just perks. Weeks later, one asked, "Is mom mad at you?" I crouched down, hugged him. "Nobody, We just want different things. He nodded like he got it. That night, he gave me a keychain from his cereal box. This one's just for you. I throat tightened. No initials, no promises, just plastic. But it meant something real. I clipped it to my backpack without hesitation. Fiona got promoted, offered to move departments so rumors wouldn't swirl. I shook my head. Let them talk. She smiled. About time you stopped carrying everyone. That evening, we took Owen to the arcade. I watched them laugh, then joined in. Not everything needed fixing, just choosing, and I was finally choosing myself. That plastic keychain swung from my belt like quiet defiance. Brianna posted a long thread online about narcissistic partners and emotional abuse. Friends tagged me. I said nothing. Fiona texted, "Silence is strength." I muted the thread, then logged off. I didn't need to defend myself to people who weren't there when Owen was sick or dinner burned. The truth didn't need hashtags, it just needed living, and I was finally doing that. Once teacher called, he wrote an essay about my hero. It was me, not flashy, just honest. He makes pancakes and never yells. It read. I teared up. Reading it twice, Fiona grinned. Guess someone notices. That plastic keychain. I gave it a quick squeeze. I didn't need validation, but damn, it felt good to be seen for something real. Brianna sent Owen home with a gift, my old keychain. Cleaned, boxed. She said it still means something. Owen whispered. I stared at it, heavy again. Fiona said, "You don't owe nostalgia anything." I nodded, thanked Owen, then tucked it away. Some relics don't need burning, just shelving. That night, I wore the plastic one, lighter, honest mind. Brianna tried one more angle, offered co-parenting counseling. I asked, for Owen's sake or your image? She blinked. Does it matter? It did. Everything did now. I declined. Fiona backed me, quietly proud. I wasn't against healing, I was done confusing it with appeasement. That plastic keychain clicked against the doorframe as I left the cafe. I didn't look back. Boundaries didn't mean bitterness, they meant clarity. At the school fair, Owen tugged my sleeve. "Mom's here." I turned. Brianna smiled, waving too wide. People whispered. Fiona stood beside me, calm. "You okay?" I nodded. We took Owen to the dunk tank. Laughter drowned the noise. Brianna left early. I didn't chase. That plastic keychain glinted under the fair lights, unremarkable but mine. And I finally knew that was enough. When drew a picture me, him, Fiona at a picnic. "This is our team," he said. I stared at the paper. Then kissed his forehead. Fiona squeezed my shoulder. I didn't need to frame the drawing. It framed me who I was now. A dad who stayed. A man who stopped bleeding for silence. The plastic keychain still there, not flashy, but it never let me down. Fiona handed me a letter. Her transfer was final. New city, fresh start. I nodded, heart tight. "You'll be okay?" she asked. I smiled. "Already am." She hugged me once, long and quiet. The next morning, when asked why she left, "Sometimes, good people need distance too." The plastic keychain still hung by the door. Some things stayed, some left with grace. Months later, Brianna asked for a favor ride to a job interview. I paused, then agreed. She chatted nervously. I stayed silent. At the curb, she said, "I'm trying." I believed her, just not enough to re-enter the fire. "Good luck," I said, and meant it. As I drove off, the plastic keychain swung in rhythm. It didn't judge, it just stayed, like I finally learned to. A friend at work invited me to a barbecue. I hesitated, then brought Owen. Laughter, ribs, bad karaoke. It felt light. Someone asked about Fiona. I shrugged. "She's good, we still talk." Owen ran barefoot across the lawn. I smiled. Healing wasn't loud. It was ribs on paper plates and choosing joy again. The keychain, still clipped, like a quiet medal of survival. On Owen's birthday, Brianna joined the party. She brought cake, stayed polite. Fiona FaceTimed in, made Owen beam. Brianna watched from the corner, quiet. I didn't gloat. I passed her a slice of cake without a word. Sometimes civility was victory. Later, Owen hugged me tight. Best day, that plastic keychain tapped my wrist. I'd built peace, not perfect but real, and real was everything. I started journaling again, nothing deep, just moments, Owen's jokes, morning walks, silence that didn't sting. I wrote about the keychain once. Called it honest weight. Brianna saw the notebook once, said nothing. I didn't hide it, didn't explain. Some pages weren't meant to be shared. They were just markers of pain, of peace, of progress. And that was enough. Fiona mailed a photo us at the arcade. Owen between us, a note, best team I knew. I framed it. Not to dwell, just to remember I wasn't always alone. One noticed, "You look happy there." I nodded. I was, I still am. The plastic keychain clicked gently in my pocket. I didn't need to prove anything anymore. Not to her, not to anyone, just to myself. One got sick again, just a cold. But he curled beside me, whispering, "Don't leave like Mom does." My heart cracked. "Never," I said, holding him tighter. In the dark, I rubbed the keychain like a talisman. I wasn't perfect, but I showed up. And maybe that was the new definition of love: consistency, even when it hurt, especially then. Brianna got a job full-time. She texted, "Thanks for pushing me." I didn't reply. Not out of spite, just peace. She was moving on, so was I. When asked if I was proud of her, "I'm glad she's okay," I said, a truth clean, no resentment. The keychain stayed on my desk that day. Some symbols don't need to be carried, they just need to be respected. At Owen's school picnic, Brianna and I sat apart but smiled, no tension, just distance. Fiona sent a check-in emoji. I sent back a picture, Owen laughing mid-sprint. She hearted it. That night, Owen whispered, "This was perfect." I believed him. Healing didn't always roar, sometimes it just exhaled. The keychain rested quietly by the fruit tray. Just like me, still present, still whole. The first Father's Day post-split, one handed me a card he drew. "You're my home." I hugged him, blinking fest. Inside the card, the tiny sticker Kaikane. "In case you lose the other." I clipped it next to the plastic one. 2 symbols now, one earned, one gifted, both true. Brianna texted Happy Father's Day. I reply, "Thank you." Simple, honest enough. Now, I walk lighter. The Kaikane still swings from my belt loop, but it no longer weighs me down. It reminds me love isn't service, it's mutual strength. Fiona's gone. Brianna's distant. But on he's rooted. My past is filed away, not erased. I've learned silence isn't always peace, and sacrifice without return is surrender. These days, I don't wait to crush. I rest, I show up, I choose me, and I stay. I don't hate Brianna. That surprised me. I grieved the version of her I needed, not the woman she chose to be. And that grief, it shaped me but doesn't steer me now. The plastic Kaikane, the cereal box one, still holds my keys, not because it's perfect but because it stayed like me. I've stopped measuring love in labor. I measure it in presence, and I'm here every day, flawed, tired, real, still standing. Brianna eventually moved cities, closer to her sister. She said goodbye at the curb. No drama, just a wave. One handled it better than I feared. I think he saw it coming too. We packed away shared photos, kept one or two. The Kaikane, still here but no longer center stage. Closures in a moment, it's a slow unfurling. And ours finally bloomed quietly, kindly, like peace that doesn't need permission. I took Owen hiking last weekend. Just us. No plans, no pressure. We watched the sun dip behind the trees. He leaned into me, quiet. I felt full, not of answers but of presence. That plastic Kaikane brushed against my side. A whisper of all we survived, of all we carry now. I didn't need a new love to be whole. Just space, time, and the small voice beside me saying, "I'm glad you stayed."